We'll continue with the summary of the novella The Little Prince. So, the geographer advises the little prince to travel to the planet called Earth, and on Earth, the prince befriends a snake who talks to him only in riddles, and and the snake tells the uh, young prince that he can return to his home and the flower uh, if he allows the snake to bite him. So the snake contains poison, and if the little prince allows the snake to bite him, he can return to his home planet. Um, the snake also talks in a very philosophical manner. He says that people lack roots, especially adults lack roots. Uh, but the snake uh, the little prince rejects the offer made by the snake, and he continues on his journey exploring the exploring Earth. The funny thing is, the interesting aspect is that the little prince is unable to find any other human being on Earth, and it is the snake whom he meets first. Now, when he continues his journey, the little prince comes across a rose garden, and he finds it very depressing to learn that his beloved rose is not, as she claimed, unique in this universe. So the rose flower had earlier told the little prince that she is quite unique. She is the only rose in this entire universe. But upon reaching the earth, the little prince is able to find a rose garden, and he feels very depressed. The next character that the little prince encounters is a fox, and he befriends the fox. And this fox tells the little prince that if he tames the fox, that is, establishes ties with the fox, then they will be unique and a source of joy to each other. They do befriend each other, they end up befriending each other, and the fox teaches the little prince many important lessons. The fox teaches him that the important things in life are visible only to the heart, that his time away from the rose makes the rose more special to him, and that love makes a person responsible for the beings that one loves. So, this is the most important lesson that is imparted to the little prince by the fox. That is, the things that are essential are not really visible. They are visible only to the heart. This is one of the most famous quotes from The Little Prince that has now gained classical status. Uh, that important things in life, the essential things in life, are invisible to the eye. Hmm? And the time that the little prince has spent away from the rose has made the rose even more special to him, and that love makes a person responsible for the beings that one loves. The little prince then realizes that even though there are many roses in this world, his love for his rose in his home planet makes her unique, and that he is therefore responsible for her. Despite this revelation, he still feels very lonely because he is so far away from his roots. The prince ends his story by describing his encounters with two men, a railway switchman and a sales clerk. So all this that the prince's encounter with various individuals with various animals are narrated by the prince to the narrator. Now, the narrator and the little prince have now spent 8 days in the desert and have run out of water. The two then traverse the desert. They travel across the desert in search of a well, which miraculously they find. The little prince tells the narrator that he plans to return that night and uh, 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 to his planet and his rose, and that now the stars will be meaningful to the narrator because he will now know that his friend is living on one of them. Returning to his planet requires allowing the poisonous snake to bite him. Remember the snake and the offer that the snake had made to the little prince? Now, the only way in which the little prince can return to his planet is by allowing the poisonous snake to bite him, which he does. Okay, so the narrate, so a day before the completion of 1 year of the little prince's stay on Earth, he is bitten by this poison snake. And when the narrator wakes up the next morning, he finds the body of the little prince gone, which assures him that the little prince has returned to his planet. So all this might seem weird or strange or uh, nonsensical to many of you, but this is how this fable works. So the little prince is bitten by the poison snake and his body disappears, and which assures the narrator that the little prince has returned to his planet. And the story resumes 6 years later. The, the narrator says that the prince's body was missing in the morning, so he knows that he returned to his planet, and he wonders whether the sheep that he drew him ate his flower. He ends by imploring the readers to contact him if they ever spot the little prince. So the tone that the narrator uses in this part when he's talking about the little prince is bittersweet. So he is happy that the little prince is back home, but he is also bereft at the loss of his dear little friend. So the tone that he uses while describing the little prince is quite bittersweet. Whereas when the narrator is talking about adults, he uses a very serious, matter of fact, very practical approach. Alright, now let's take a look at the main characters. The main characters of the novella. Obviously, the two protagonists are the prince and the narrator, as we'll take a look at the little prince himself. One of the two protagonists of the story. After leaving his home planet and his beloved Rose, the prince journeys around the universe, ending up on Earth. Now, what is his main quality? He is frequently perplexed by the behavior of grown ups, and the prince symbolizes the hope, love, innocence, and insight of childhood that lie dormant in all of us. So, as we grow older, love, hope, innocence, and insight are all lost to us. So, that is why this little boy is confused at the behavior, is confused by the attitude of adults. The prince is sociable and meets a number of characters as he travels. He never stops loving and missing the rose on his home planet. But the prince is sociable and meets a number of characters as he travels. He never stops loving and missing the rose on his home planet. So, as we had seen in the previous section, where we saw what the fox had told the prince, and as he is away, as the little prince is away from the rose, his love for the rose has only grown much stronger. Now, the second protagonist of the novella is the narrator. He's a lonely pilot who is disillusioned with adults and who believes that adults lack imagination. And he's stranded in the Sahara Desert. He befriends the little prince. And they form this amazing bond. They spend 8 days together in the desert before the little prince returns to his home planet. Although he's discouraged from drawing early in his life because adults cannot understand his drawings, the narrator illustrates his own story and makes several drawings for the little prince. So that's how they get to know each other, that's how they befriend each other, as we had seen in the beginning. The little prince asks the narrator to draw a sheep for him, and throughout the novella, you'll find that the narrator draws various pictures. But as a child, he was dissuaded by adults uh, from drawing. The narrator is a grown up, but his view of the world is more like a child's than an adult's. After the little prince departs, the narrator feels both refreshed and saddened. That's why I told you earlier the feelings that he has, or the attitude that he adopts towards the little prince, is that is quite bittersweet. Alright. Now, the next character, the rose, is a coquettish flower, is an arrogant, adamant flower who has trouble expressing her love for the little prince and consequently drives him away. Simultaneously, vain and naive, she informs the little prince of her love for him too late to persuade him to stay home and not to travel. Throughout the story, she occupies the prince's thoughts and heart. So, throughout the novella, you feel her presence. The little prince, though departs from his planet to get away from the rose, cannot really forget her completely. She's always in his thoughts. Now, the fox. Although the fox asks the little prince to tame him, the fox is in some ways the more knowledgeable of the two characters, and he helps steer the prince towards what's important in life. In the secret, the fox tells the little prince before they say their goodbyes. The fox sums up three important lessons. We had taken a look at one lesson that the fox had imparted to the little prince. First one, only the heart can see correctly. The prince's time away from his planet has made him appreciate his rose more, and love entails responsibility. So the first lesson is that only the heart can see correctly. The second one, the prince's time away from his planet has made him appreciate the rose more. And the third one, that love entails responsibility. So love is not something that makes you free or liberated alone. It brings in a lot of responsibility as well. That is why after listening to the fox's words, the little prince realizes that he still has love towards the rose, and uh, that entails a certain amount of responsibility on the part of the little prince towards the rose. Okay. Now, the final analysis. The Little Prince, the parable, draws unflattering portraits of grown ups as being hopelessly narrow minded. In contrast, children come to wisdom through open mindedness and the willingness to explore the world around them and within themselves. That is why the Little Prince is able to travel the universe. He is able to. Despite his reservations, he's able to travel around the world. He's willing to meet new people. He's sociable, uh, because precisely because he's a young boy. Uh, uh, while adults, on the other hand, um lack imagination, just as the narrator had pointed out in the beginning. The narrator is able to draw, is able to be creative because he's open minded. Uh, that is the contrast that is portrayed by the writer here. The main theme of the fable is expressed in the secret that the fox tells the little prince. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly, and what is essential is invisible to the eye. This is the most. This summarizes the entire essay. I'm sorry, the novella for us. The essence, the core of the novella is captured in that particular statement. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly, and what is essential is invisible to the eye. With that, we come to the end of the lectures on the novella The Little Prince. Hope you have understood the novella properly. Hope you've understood the story and the characters thoroughly. Thank you.